Well, let's go back to our earlier story. We have been trying very hard to get on the line Andrew Kenny, who's an independent energy analyst. Andrew, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Andrew. Well, we've just heard that the Eskom application has not been accepted by NERSA. A welcome relief for businesses and consumers, no doubt. But how is the power utility going to maneuver now, Andrew?
Well, I thoroughly welcome this rejection of Eskom's silly application for an increase. They've already had increases in the past. I think, I must just say, I think NERSA is doing a very good job. I think they're measured and doing a good job, and they're quite right to turn Eskom down. Eskom, in order to finance its new stations, and it needs a lot of money for that, Eskom must do various things. But first of all, it must control its costs. Eskom's costs are running out of control, and it's completely its own fault, its own incompetence. It's spending far too much, for example, on diesel and coal than it should. It must reduce these costs. Secondly, if it wants to get to revenue for the future, it must borrow. Eskom bonds they've been downgraded several times, but they're still cheap. Eskom must borrow. Instead, what Eskom wants is always the easy way out: raise the prices to the customers and get more money that way. That's the shortcut, and it must be denied. And I'm glad Eskom has denied it.
Is the alternative a source of energy generation like solar and wind power the way to go, Andrew, right now in the country?
No, they're very good for offline and for solar water heating and a whole lot of offline applications. But for the base load power that we desperately need, they're useless. So that is not the way to go. The way to go is just coal stations, nuclear stations, maybe in the future gas, if we've got the gas, but that's the way to go.
All right, we know Eskom now operates on an apartheid-era design grid that never did take into account an expanded citizenry. Do you think the new power stations, like Medupi and Kusile, will alleviate our problems to some extent?
Yes, well, first of all, that's the first statement made is not true. That Eskom, it's true that Eskom under apartheid, it was mainly white people who connected to the electricity grid. But towards the end, by the late 80s and certainly the early 90s, Eskom and the municipalities were expanding power so that it would go to black communities and black townships and so forth. That was happening. Everyone knew that. The government knew that, and Eskom knew that. That is not the reason for our failure. The reason for our failure is we didn't build power stations from about 1994 on, when it was perfectly obvious that we needed them. And yes, it's true that Medupi and Kusile will be a big help. Certainly they'll be a big help. But they're way behind schedule, years behind schedule.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew Kenny, independent energy analyst. Thank you for your time on the PM Newsday.